mic is on.
Yeah, we're on, baby.
Hello.
Yeah. What's up?
You can hear me. It's a little. I get. Okay, we're good.
You have a volume knob.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I turned it down
Jesus.
a second.
You're supposed to be helping me.
Am I not? No, don't answer that.
Oh, how was Christmas, Joe? Tell me about your holiday with your... I know you said it wasn't as big, of course, as it was going to be. How was your holiday with your family?
It was pretty exhausting. There was, the direct family holiday was phenomenal, but then we went down to Nashville to visit all of the extended family, and that was just kind of a wreck.
Why?
Were
you there during the bombing?
We were there the day after, so Christmas morning was the bombing, and then we went down the next day because we wanted to catch a gander of that.
And the only person that was injured was the bomber himself.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I guess that's a blessing. It's just such a sad, crazy story. And then and then you texted me that you were down there. I was like, whoa. So you went down the 26th for Boxing Day.
Yeah. Yep. And there was a lot of miscommunication with my family. There was a part of our family that we had already planned to see, and then there was another part of the family that told us they didn't want to see us. And then when we got down there, they said they did want to see us, and they were upset with the amount of time they got to see us. And
yeah, well, it's impossible right now. You know what I mean? It's so hard with the back and forth and the COVID stuff. I mean, I probably saw more people for the holiday than I wanted to as far as COVID is concerned, but nowhere near the number of people I normally see for the holiday. So,
how was yours?
Great. Really lovely small get together with my grandmother and my mom. Got to see my parents, my brother and my grandmother and my in-laws all separately and sometimes masked in some cases because there was a COVID scare at Clay's work, I think, or something. And
I see.
But he got tested Christmas morning, I think, or Christmas Eve morning, and negative. And then I think he's got tested again.
He got his results back on Christmas morning?
No, he got tested and had a rapid test Christmas Eve.
Oh, cool.
And so he got the negative results that morning. He was happy about that. And so we were able to see each other, and it was great.
Cool.
So I put this in here because to talk about this. So the theme to Baywatch was a song called "I'm Always Here" by Jimmy Jamison. It was on his album Empires, which had like the Statue of Liberty like on a galaxy, like in an eagle, like that was also a mountain. Like the cover was great. And I think my old band, Too Deep, is currently working on an interpretation of that we want to put out. I don't know how long it's going to take or what for what it will be. We're talking about maybe doing it for charity or something. But where the drums are being tracked as we speak. So that'll be on the way. I have a bass player lined up. I think I'm going to ask Kim to sing it. So Too Deep is coming back. That's great.
Too Deep is back.
It's going to be good. We kind of have the technology now to do a lot of the recording remotely, so sending each other the pieces until it's all finished, which is great. Joe, what's up with the Spotify Rogan thing? So here's the thing I had you look into a little bit. And when I say Spotify Rogan thing, I'm talking about a very specific part of his transition to Spotify. It's really just because it's a issue I was curious about. So, for example, like episodes with people like Alex Jones and Milo Yiannopoulos are missing, and originally we heard that employees at Spotify were protesting in some way, but I didn't know if that was still going on. And then we were having a conversation about, like Twitter, for example, is classified as a public domain location or something. So if Spotify was like that, it'd be a different story than if they own all that content.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, we were kind of just talking about the frustration with, just, I guess, the lack of explanation and the censoring. But I think the only, valuable article I found on it was from Variety.
Uh-huh.
Nobody's really touched on it.
Well, because it's kind of a stupid thing to be news, right? We're talking about... But here's my thing, is those are some crazy conversations that happen. Those are some extreme characters that have been on that show that are now being... I love seeing how ridiculous some of those people are.
Yeah.
So I don't think acting like they don't exist is productive, but I just didn't know. Among other episodes not available on Spotify are Rogan's podcast with Chris D'Elia, since he was kind of canceled for Instagramming or DMing underage women. We're going to talk about that. One with Tommy Chong from May of 2019, and two featuring both Joey Diaz and Brian Redband, who are, I think Joey Diaz is getting heat because he told some story about back when he was a drug addict, they kidnapped somebody or something, and which is terrible, but also part of his recovery process, I think, is confronting all those crazy stories of just what his life was like before he got control over it. But
Yeah.
and again, like I think a lot of the stuff is available on YouTube,
Right.
but it's just not in the same thing. And we looked up an example. For example, there's a Prince song called "The Most Beautiful Girl in the World" that's off the Gold Experience album.
Different though.
And it's totally a different situation. But like when we go to that album, all the songs are available to stream on Spotify except for that one song. It's listed there, but it's grayed out. Like you can't click on
Which
it.
I think is more appropriate and more honest.
Well, and on the Rogan Experience, for example, it goes from 12:54 to 12:56.
Six.
Like it skips episode 12:55, which
As
is
if it doesn't exist.
which was really my insight into Alex Jones and the stuff that he is really out there promoting, and how sensational and kind of crazy so much of it is, and I find it so entertaining, even though I don't, what's the word? Identify with him at all ideologically. You know what I mean? So let's see where this goes. What do we have here?
I think it's more problematic, the nature or the way they've decided to go about without and Joe Rogan hasn't really made a real he hasn't made a real public announcement about it. He hasn't really discussed it truly and fully, and I think because
Because it must still be in the works.
right, but it's like I think because Joe Rogan has a reputation of just going a little bit more full circle than a lot of people, I think it's something that's important that he needs to address, even if he agrees with what Spotify has done. If he didn't like the interviews and he wants to take them down, that's fine. But at least let's hear it. Let's hear him say it. I feel like that's an honest thing to do as a show host.
Well, and we do this on this show, is that we are critical of podcasting. Is my favorite sort of art form right now. That the majority of my entertainment is podcasts, and I really love just the variety and the freedom and the long format, and even the ones that have a bunch of ads. It's just so much easier and more effective to get to what you're looking for, in a way that you can also do other things on your phone. If I could watch a YouTube video in the corner of my phone while I'm playing Pokemon Go, I would do that. But there's, the RIAA won't let us have that privilege for some reason.
And an opinion that I want to clarify that I heard from someone was that it's the discussion about if Spotify is not necessarily a public domain platform, so it's not like Facebook and it's not like Twitter. It's not something where people go to be a part of a news feed or a culture kind of circus of thoughts. And I feel like because of that,
it's very much its own organization that can choose what it curates and doesn't curate.
Like a record store, and which is why I think as promoting a free market, they should technically be able to do that. If they don't want to sell that episode, they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't, which I think we should be able to come to terms with. But I just wish it was addressed.
Well, that's the thing. Just to explain it, and those videos are available other places. Now, the Alex Jones thing is one thing, because you could just look at that as one guy that has his own independent news channel, and he can do and say whatever he wants, and he researches these really extravagant, over the top things, and he makes these wild claims. And I popped in on him last night, and he was interviewing Kyle Rittenhouse's mother. So I'm like, yikes, brother. That is not where I want to be.
But let's get into the Milo thing.
So that's the thing. You and me looked into the Milo interview, and he says a lot of crazy stuff, not just to be crazy, but also stuff that is indicative of his ideology, which is a little alarming. Like, he seems to have some really weird issues with race and gender and power and authority, and
Is there a way we can play a little bit? I guess
I'm
we
not
shouldn't.
doing that.
That's right. We shouldn't. That makes sense.
right. But just like so when he also has a unique experience. He was, I think you said he said something about part of why he's not around anymore. We're talking about Milo Yiannopoulos. Is he's a one? I don't have a lot of tolerance for the English, so I'm trying to be polite.
First off,
but he's an English gay journalist who's also kind of almost like a white nationalist kind of a figure, and
he'll go on those rants, but I don't necessarily think he's as passionate about. I think he's had to be held accountable for those thoughts, but I don't think he's quite as passionate as he is about the idea.
And that was the Rogan episode 703 or whatever it was that he was on that we checked out this morning to see exactly why he's so problematic, because I hadn't heard him talk in a long, long time.
Yeah, I think the thing that got him cut off, and I think this is the reason why I might support it, is because he was suggesting that people who are trans or people who identify a certain way, there's no validity to it, and it's something that should be. It's part of an agenda, and it's part of, and because he said it so.
Yeah, he speaks about a lot of issues in a way that he is a great example of how the white patriarchy kind of looks in the gay community. Because just because you're a gay man like he is, does not mean that you're going to be.
And these Fox News hosts play that card all the time. They're
Well,
like, I'm an atheist, so I can talk about it. It's like, no, you can't. Sorry.
Well, it's like you're representing just what atheism looks like in the context of your privilege. You're free, Milo, to have a platform and to be a journalist on some of the most competitive platforms in the world. He's been on. He worked for the Telegraph. He was on Breitbart, places that I don't necessarily subscribe to, but that they're real news sources with real sponsors, and it's a real I don't want to say even news sources, but they're real platforms, right? It's like he's not just some guy tweeting crazy stuff, right? He actually was employed to be a source of information, right? So here's his thing here's my thing with him is it's just like my thing is I'm so pro the transgender kind of equality discussion and movements, but Caitlyn Jenner is not the best example of that process. When you have somebody, I think it's such a part of the conversation because it's something that wealthy white men took an interest in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we were talking about, that's the terrible laugh.
I'm working on it.
So if we were talking about other issues, they never get the attention that they really deserve until the ruling class gets there. Until there's a member of.
Until there's a rich guy.
Until there's a rich, specifically a rich white guy that wants to. And he was 70 or something when that started taking place. And
wait, Jenner?
No. Caitlyn Jenner. She was at 70? The time Bruce Jenner, and she was like in her 70s.
No.
Well, look it up. Look that up, please.
I guess I'm the guy.
So it's also like. Caitlyn didn't even have a platform to be removed from necessarily. The money was made; it was in the bank. The freedom, the liberty.
Late 60s.
But
liberty.
Caitlyn Jenner is 197 years old. Is what I'm trying to say.
That's true. I'm looking at it.
But
71. She's 71.
I just wish that we could have this meaningful conversation about these issues of human rights and civil rights for all these different groups. Without waiting for rich white dudes to get there. Like, why do we have to wait for them? I know why. It's because they're in charge of everything, and it's unfortunate that it's disproportionate that way.
Can I...
Even though I have that privilege. That's the thing. I have the privilege to have these conversations in a way that... and to really have time alone to spend with these issues. So I acknowledge that's part of my privilege. Also, I just wish we didn't have to wait for it to get there. So Milo's kind of, for me, kind of toxic like that. He's a great representation of how, people try to have. And Candace Owens is another one. They try to say, oh, well, Candace Owens is a young black female journalist and a young woman of color. I think she's my age. I almost said our age, but
now this is a different conversation.
Well, no, but here's the thing. It's so Milo is the gay guy and she's the black girl that both like give their groups a pass to be like, no, it's not hateful because look, we have this gay friend, we have this black friend.
Exactly.
So if she says something crazy like the stuff that she says, right, then it seems like it's harder to critique her because she's not this established privileged class, at least on the outside, right? So Milo's that same way, is that he can promote these kind of really toxic ideologies or suppressive ideologies about other members of the LGBT community because he really doesn't identify with them, because he's still he has the privilege of being both.
Here's the hot take with Candace Owens that I always say when she gets brought up, which is...
Here we go.
Here's the hot take, which is, I don't think it's nobody's right to say or make any statement about what African Americans do with their blackness and if they use it as a platform or whatever. I didn't even say that. Maybe we need to cut that.
No. I know what you're saying.
But when it comes to Milo, I am going to have to say that I believe that he has used his sexuality to...
You almost said gayness.
I didn't say it.
You almost said gayness. He's going to use his gayness.
Gayness.
He's got his gayness gene.
to kind of nudge his way into the conversation.
And that's a great point, that maybe he was given more, he done got it. He was given maybe more of a platform to get to the point where he got in his career as a journalist, even in spite of some of his more toxic ideologies or some of his kind of ugly habits, because maybe he was
not his gayness.
Because of his gayness.
I'm sorry.
It's his gayness. No, but that's the thing too, is because we're talking about him. It seems like it's okay. So, and here's where this conversation went with him, and I think this is a bigger part of this problem. Is part of his...
Watch
I almost said toxicology, but part of his toxic kind of rhetoric that got him deplatformed, and the part of the reason probably why his episode of Rogan is not on Spotify, is because he says crazy things about pedophilia and gender and all sorts of issues that are really sensitive.
Specifically in the progressive community. He's suggesting things
he was suggesting in that clip that we watched that that progressive liberals are going to... make pedophilia an equal rights issue, like that we need to advocate for the rights of pedophiles or something, and that he feels like the trans movement is a slippery slope. I hate when they use that argument.
Right. Which I think we should pick it apart.
Right. It's a slippery slope leading to... He's saying that the trans movement is a slippery slope to the pedophile thing. And we were talking about Jeffrey Epstein's thing was he would always tell people that liked him, that were close to him, really regarded him as an intellectual and a smart guy and a visionary or something, from what I've read. And he would tell them things like, one day pedophilia will be recognized as a sexual orientation instead of a disorder or a whatever, right? It's crazy, but that was his vision. As he thought. So here's my thing, and I would love to open a conversation about this with our listeners if people know anything about this. But from what I've read, and I'm pulling this from podcasts and articles and AP stuff, like I try not to just get into the weeds. I'm not on ObamaWatcher.com or some of these crazy sites that people just throw up. I'm really interpreting this from the news, that things that witnesses to his whole experience have said these things. And that he really wanted, like NAMBLA, Joe, we were talking about the National Association of Man, Boy, Love, and Affection, or whatever they're called, are people that are saying that, no, I'm not a monster because I'm sexually attracted to underage citizens. I am just different than you. But here's my thing, is I know for a fact, it was on record in many of his court cases, that Jeffrey Epstein was abused sexually as a child in some way. And that I think we can draw a correlation between his abuse that he experienced and his inclinations of pedophilia. And then he had this crazy, sinister experience with developing and cultivating wealth, and then was able to parlay that into this giant network of human trafficking and pedophilia. Like, it sounds unreal. It sounds like, it doesn't even sound like a good movie when you really get into the details. I think we have to find a balance between protecting underage individuals from abuse of any kind, but also having to teach those individuals, our kids, about their sexuality so that they know how to grow into healthy adults. But we also have to start treating these people that feel like they are just genuinely attracted to children as a sexual entity. It's not enough to just make those issues taboo, right? Because what Epstein really thought he was doing was pioneering his own civil rights experience as a sexual orientation minority.
Right.
And that's the kind of danger that Milo was warning against, I think, in that clip. But he's also...
Or in a horrible fashion.
But he's doing it in a really terrible way and probably for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Right? He's trying to suppress this mainstream opening of this conversation about gender and sexual orientation that's been happening really since the Supreme Court made same-sex marriage legal. We've been able to move to this place. He's trying to downplay that, which is a good thing. He's trying to downplay this good thing that's happening. We're talking about stuff that's really important, and it's going to save people's lives. It's going to allow people to grow up in a way that and develop in a way that allows them to be their true selves, so they don't have to abuse drugs and alcohol and live in some kind of an illusion or a lie all the time. It's a good thing that we're talking about all those things, right? Like we talked about.
Is there a way it could go wrong?
Well, hold on.
I'm sorry.
No, you're right. But he's trying to take away all that good stuff and all that progress because he's saying, look, we're all going to be eventually this group is going to grow. This, people like Epstein that want to be allowed to have relationships with underage people is going to grow with children is going to grow if we keep going down this slippery slope, is what he's saying. I think they're totally unrelated. But like you and me were talking about, and we wrote some of this down, is that we're, as a society, sending a lot of mixed signals. So we all agree that we need to protect underage people, children, people under the age of consent. We need to protect them from being abused or manipulated because we know that their brain development is such. Your brain develops well into your 20s, apparently, they keep telling me. And so it makes sense to have protections for people before they get to the point where they can make those decisions. I think, like, for financial situations and stuff like that, I mean, like, that age could probably go up to 20 or 21 if you really want to talk about what...
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so
I'm just kidding.
We need to protect those people. We need to protect kids from being abused in any way, right? Or assaulted in any way, certainly. And we need to also not just act like their sexuality doesn't exist, because then it'll just emerge in a way that is completely unchecked and unhealthy, and they're going to learn things from this vast library of ever-growing millions of hours of high-definition pornography, and they're going to learn from their friends, and they're going to maybe make mistakes that they can't fix because they didn't know better beforehand. So that's... As a society, we are agreeing that we want to do that, right? We want to teach kids how to be healthy and safe, and we also want to protect them while they're vulnerable as young people. But we're not
doing.
But we're not limiting. We're not limiting the way that they can sexually exploit themselves on things like TikTok, or it used to be when I was a kid. They were saying, "Oh, they're all putting naked pictures on the MySpace," and we're not doing enough to I don't even want to say block, because prohibition is not the solution,
right?
By itself, right? But there's so many ways that young people can exploit themselves sexually, maybe even unknowingly, but like on TikTok, on
even the word discourage feels wrong, because it's something that a lot of people. I have a girlfriend that dances. She dances, and she's my actual girlfriend, a romantic. She's my partner.
We all believe you. She went to a different school. You met her at Niagara Falls. Go ahead.
And she's a dancer, and she has a big beef with this because it's such a fine line.
Exactly.
With female, because dancing is such a
female
important
dance
part.
is exactly where we're going. This was a conversation earlier in the year about that documentary Cuties that was all about, the dance group, but it was like a form of contemporary hip hop dance that's really sexual or something. I didn't watch it, so I don't know. And they were part of the documentary was saying, we need to look how ridiculous this is. We should not be letting them do this. But also, it was showing millions of people that had no idea, hey, look what these girls are doing.
Which I love that form of comedy.
Well, it's fun. That's funny. It is funny because it's so like, guys, what are you doing? But it's scary because it's like, okay, so yes, we're drawing. Yeah, we should probably stop this. We should probably transition dance instruction for young women away from these hypersexual forms of dance.
It worked.
And you mean the objective of the documentary to inhibit those things?
I don't think it was a documentary. It was a narrative.
What?
It was a whole work. Everybody thinks it's a documentary.
It was a feature?
It was a actors and fiction. It was a completely. I'm sorry.
Oh Jesus! See, I don't even know. I didn't watch it. So you misspelled balance on the show prep in a way that is ruining my life. I'm just gonna go fix it. And
wait, that's not how you. Okay,
Joe.
I'm sorry.
Literacy crisis in our country. We'll get there. And so, even if you're drawing attention to this issue, you're also creating fodder for this audience of malicious people who may be victims themselves. We were talking about Michael Jackson a minute ago. I think his childhood was so challenging and traumatic that he was stuck developmentally, socially or romantically or whatever, in a certain place to where his sexual preference stayed at maybe the age that he was when those things happened to him, right? And everything he did is terrible, and I can't listen to a lot of his music anymore because of it, and it's really hard. It's a really hard issue for society to have to go through. It'd be like if Elvis, murdered his whole family or something. It's really like that. It's really devastating. It'd be like, it's like watching Muhammad take a shit. Like, you don't want to have to go through that. And so he was stuck there. And that does not excuse anything that he did as an adult. But nobody did anything to unstick him there. Even the most wealthy, famous people didn't have access or value in the mental health resources to correct that issue, right? I think Jeffrey Epstein was probably a pedophile because of what he experienced as a youth. And I think a healthier society could have treated that young victim and kept that young victim from becoming a malicious predator as an adult. But that's not what happened, right? And so I think the reason Milo's rhetoric is sort of toxic is because it's not allowing the full conversation to take place. Part of the thing we hear about all the time, part of why I love podcasts, is because they can be deeper like this, is that all these things can be true at once. We have to discourage people from seeking out children as a sexual interest, either online or in person, either way. We were just talking a couple months ago, video came out of a guy I went to high school with who got outed by these young women who baited him and outed him as a pedophile. It was crazy. What the text messages they released, I'm not going to mention his name, but it was absolutely wild. We absolutely need to keep discouraging that pedophilia from happening, but we also need to start fixing where it comes from, start identifying all the different scenarios of how do we create pedophiles in our society, and then what are we going to do to inhibit some of that creation. And there were other explosions throughout history that you can look at. In the 60s and 70s, there was this huge explosion of molestation in schools, in churches, in things like that, alongside this huge movement. I've heard Dr. Drew talk about this because he was there. I wasn't there. I wasn't born yet. Alongside this huge movement in society of, children are just young adults. They have interests and feelings, and they have sexuality, and you need to treat them like they're just miniature adults. It was, I guess, well-intended, but it really fed this fire of all these people that had grown up being constantly exposed to lead, who then have these traumatic experiences because nobody knows how to be a parent yet because it's, World War II.
The greatest.
Well, hold on. And then they're all in the workforce being told kids are just little adults, and then that's where all this molestation could have come from. I'm not saying correlation is causation, but I'm saying what I'm saying. So, as a society, we have to discourage that pedophilia, figure out where it comes from and stop it, and continue to protect the freedom and safety of our youth. But maybe we need to also, this third piece, maybe we need to start having conversations about what is okay and not okay for young people to show of themselves. That's the thing, is that if you want to study dance because you have an affinity for dance, I want you to do that. I don't want anyone to use your participation in that activity as a malicious sort of sexual thing for them.
Assumption of intention.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. Is when you put out a TikTok, you're sharing it with your friends and your audience, but you're also leaving it open to that malicious part. But I'm also anti-censorship, and I've said things on social media that people have taken issue with, and we've had conversations about those things. And
he's a very controversial person.
And I do have my limitations, despite what some people in my family will tell you about things I post on social media. But normal people know what balance I'm talking about, right? But the problem is, as a society, is like, hey, everyone's on TikTok. Download TikTok. Oh, it's a bunch of underage girls. Oh, don't you dare express any positive reaction to that, you monster. Like, what are we, like, and the problem is it's not all coming from the same place, right? But we need to start to unify some of that messaging.
I think, just to go even farther in depth, I think these people also need to recognize I think it is pedophilia a problem. I think it is. Should they be able to have their way with somebody whose brain is maybe not mature enough to make that decision, responsibly? No,
that's the thing too, because people always say, well, what if you're like a 14-year-old kid and you have this 23-year-old teacher that's super hot? I'm like, one, this is all a gross hypothetical. Why are we doing gross hypotheticals? Yeah. But also,
let's make it even worse.
But also, if that 14-year-old kid can't go forward 10 years as a 24-year-old man and say, oh yeah, I was okay with that.
You got to watch it.
And so he can't undo whatever he does, whatever freedom he has to do. And this is part of the argument, because people always say, oh, well, it's a double standard. And maybe that's the case, but right. It's just not okay. It's just
I'm sorry, Jake.
No, you're right.
What I was getting at is that people still have to recognize that pedophilia is a problem.
Right.
Yeah, and so they have to be able to handle the ramifications for and you should tell people. We shouldn't. I think that's the problem with Milo is that he's actually discouraging pedophiles from being open. They should be open, and we should be. And I'm not necessarily. And the problem is we're not making a safe space for them. That's what they think, is that we're going to make a safe space for them. We're not necessarily, because what pedophiles have to understand is that what's going to happen is they're going to come out, and now the society is going to give them a road, and they're going to say, okay, we're going to look back into your childhood. We're going to look, and we're going to give you the support you need. However, if you have a sister and she has kids, you're going to have to be okay with her maybe not being comfortable with
That's
her
the
being
thing. We need to be able to treat adult individuals who feel like they are sexually attracted to children in a way that is restorative and healing of that issue. And part of that is also going to be that we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations. But it's hypocritical to say that there's no excuse for being attracted to anyone below a certain age when we're also exploiting that age group sexuality, like on the Disney Channel and right. TikTok and these crazy threads on Pornhub. We were talking about all the teen categories and college categories and, she's barely legal and stuff that's just really, really gross. And it definitely has an audience because there's more and more of it all the time. But it's like, why is that a thing? Why as a society are we craving that, much less allowing that? But why is there an audience for that? What is maybe unhealthy in the way that we're developing our citizens that is happening? It's, are people supposed to pursue those relationships or not? There's a lot of, Chris D'Elia didn't do anything that bad. He never actually met up with any of those girls. I don't know if that's true. I've heard people say stuff like that, but also, you got to know better. You got
pulled up an article.
You got to know if you have a platform. North American Man Boy Love Association. That's what they're called. That's hilarious. But if you have a platform and you even want to tell a girl that she's pretty in a DM, and maybe this is a learning curve with social media, but I don't know. I would make sure that girl was of age. Call me crazy, call me old-fashioned, call me I'm such a prude or something, but I don't think that's that hard.
Yeah. I have a hard candy.
You're eating a candy?
I'm sorry. I have to narrow my focus. I'm gonna have to finish it before I keep talking.
No. You're doing great. Are we still talking about this issue?
We can move on if you want. I think you hit everything.
Well, I didn't mean to,
You just nailed it.
Oh, wow, look at this.
What happened? Oh, you're going to pull up Cyberpunk 20.
No.
No.
No, that has been so much of my life.
Jake is so good at this game, folks.
Yeah, it's new. It's sit here for a second and talk while I run to the bathroom.
What Jake is trying to say. That's like the worst.
We're live. Keep talking.
I know. I'm here. So, when you're making a Jimmy Dean breakfast burrito, it's really important that you follow these steps. I prefer the one with the cheddar, and it's kind of a cheddar with sausage and egg. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pull it out of the freezer and let it sit. It's not going to be totally unfrozen. So let it sit for about 5 minutes and preheat your oven to 320 specifically. And you want to microwave the burrito for 30 seconds just to get the outside fully thawed. Put it back in the oven for 10 minutes exactly, and then finish it off in the microwave for 45 seconds.
What are you talking about?
How to make Jimmy Dean breakfast burrito.
Which one? You wrap it in a wet paper towel?
No, you have to follow the instructions I just said.
Oh, okay, so Jimmy Dean breakfast burrito. You know what I was trying to do there in OBS? Guys, if you're noticing, we're live again for the first time since I got my new machine, and I think we've integrated things in a way that's going to be really great for the future of the show. We can live stream all sorts of things down here, but I need to get like a potty break overlay for OBS so that we can. Because I have ones for stream is coming back soon, but I need to make a custom one that explains that I had to go to the bathroom.
That has to be a cartoon of you, like with Raisinets,
I mean, it's been 38 minutes. I've had probably 6 Diet Cokes today.
That was my fault. I've
had a bunch of La Croix. I've been eating a lot of Lion's Choice lately. Did you have any Lion's Choice lately, Joe? What'd you have today? I had Jimmy John's, unfortunately. I had to go see the shark fucker.
Joya's down.
Oh, local spot.
South Grand.
You had there's a Grand location?
Not South Grand. I'm sorry. It's downtown.
It's probably not downtown. Oh, there's a downtown location.
What I'm saying is the one near me is an uptown location. So
near you?
There's one in Creve Coeur. Joya's, I had the roast beef and salami, mustard, mayonnaise with lettuce, and I really like the Provel cheese.
Oh, yeah.
On a wheat toasted bun.
They do a red hot riplet salami sometimes.
Oh, yeah, that's really good.
I get that. It's like a sausage.
Fuck.
That one's crazy. Joe, I figured something out recently that I wanted to talk about on the show. I didn't know we'd spend so much time on pedophilia.
I have a feeling it's going to be about Netflix.
Netflix is a stock scheme. So the way the stock market is supposed to work, I think, is that when your company gets to a certain size, you start offering public shares. You start offering ownership shares of your company. And what happens is that becomes the capital that you use to grow your company, and your investors will collect on the dividends. And the gains of when stock in your company increases in value. Now, Now, here's the thing. Typically, if a company consistently doesn't make any money, their stock price would go down. But companies like Netflix and Uber have never posted gains or profits or whatever the term is, but their stock value keeps rising, and they keep bringing in more dollars. And I think it's like this new way of playing that system to where we can continue to collect wealth, and we're going to invest in content, and we can write all those off as expenses. And then, the people that need to get paid, and it doesn't matter if the bottom line is in the negative or not, because there's always going to be the stock money coming in. Does that make sense?
I have something to add.
Yeah, please.
I think, I don't know the number of notifications I get about here's what's going to be on Netflix next month. Because I'm seeing it's on CNN articles at this point. I'm like, what is going on?
This is my thing. This is the death of the real.
Right.
I think it was Descartes or somebody who talked about this back in... when psychology was,
Dubois?
Or whoever. And so it's the death of the real. Nothing is new. Everything is a reboot. It's Jumanji. It's Fast and the Furious 9. We're going to space.
Well, what I'm saying is that it's a great system for the stock market, because what it does is it gets, oh shit, they're going to finally put all the Indiana Jones on Netflix. I better go buy some Netflix stock. And it's so beautiful because they really don't pay anything.
They lost like a show that was really important to
Office.
Something like that. Or maybe it's happened a couple times. And then they keep going up and they're offering their own content, a lot of which I love, but a lot of it's also like it's starting to become like the Lifetime channel.
Well, it's so beautiful because they don't have to make anything new. They
can just buy stuff, especially when you're talking about indie films and documentaries. There's millions of them just sitting on shelves that never got bought. So how I think that industry works is you make something, and if you make it independently, you completely fund the whole project. You make a completed thing, and you sell the completed thing to a studio or somebody who's going to put it out. You can also work with a studio where they pay for everything along the way, but then they have say on everything along the way. But if I wanted to start a streaming platform, first thing I'm going to do is just grab every half-baked documentary about anything, edit it up, pay for some music to make it sound really good, and blurt that shit out there.
Right. Well, but even just with big movies, like they're just like it'd be like if Apple, and Apple's in on it now with Apple TV, but it'd be like if Apple was just like, and next week we've got the Razr phone. We're bringing it back, and if you subscribe to us, you get a Razr phone.
That was Motorola.
And then we're gonna take it away. And I'm just like, they're not even innovating anything.
And I noticed this when Adobe switched from, I own Adobe Office 8 or whatever it was called, Adobe fucking CC, whatever the thing is. And you pay for it and you would own it forever.
Right.
And eventually you would get updated out of it. Like with Pro Tools was the same way. You would get updated out of it, and so you'd have to buy the next one. Now it's a subscription. I pay like $8 a month for Pro Tools, and now I always have it as long as I'm still subscribed, right? And this is part of the new economy, is removing ownership of everything and moving it into a subscription base.
I love the incense.
You just gotta, just because of the, these fucking cats. So Adobe is like that now. I mean, I have Postmates like that. I don't pay for the actual delivery on the Postmates.
Share economy, I think is what it's called.
But it's a subscription based. Everything is like why wouldn't they just start doing that with clothes?
Subscribe.
They'll drop off clean clothes. You leave the dirty clothes on your front porch. You pay $100 a month. You got clothes to wear.
There is an explanation for that. I learned about it. I don't remember what it was.
For what?
For why they don't have the closed subscription service.
Oh no! I mean that's just especially during a pandemic. I'm not wearing fucking service porch clothes, but
what?
I'm not wearing you know what I mean. Like there's like the what is it?
Service
Centos or something. The people that drop off the uniforms and they like clean janitors' uniforms and shit.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a thing. But I'm just saying everything could become subscription based like that.
Do you remember that? That's what I don't. This is shitty. But that's what that Tim Dillon interview was all about with Whitney and
Whitney Webb.
Yeah.
Oh God, I love Whitney Webb.
She was talking about how they popularize non-privacy by creating a share economy. And if you think about it, that's what college is already doing. You have these kids who are just like so happy to be, they're in this, they're in like, university housing, and like it's like if Harvard University put security cameras in their rooms, people would still go. Like, it'd be like in their dorm room, people would be like, yeah, but like this is what the rich people are doing,
Well, and it's like the South Park about cable. It's about, what are you going to do? You're going to leave?
Yeah, right.
Are you going to not go to Harvard because there's a camera in the bottom of your toilet? Like, is that like, because I want to, like, what are you going to, there's still people that will go. There's still people that will spend $70,000 a year going to Harvard or Yale because they want to go to Harvard or Yale. They don't care. Some people will do it no matter what, right? And that's exactly what, why AT&T sucks so bad. It's because, like, what are you going to do? It's us or like one other place, and you don't like them because they used to suck, so good luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good luck. I mean, you used to be able to, my mom used to always call and bitch about something with the AT&T to keep her bill down, and you can't even get somebody on the phone anymore, which is, I'm not advocating for that old lady shit, but I'm also like,
what she was telling us was that you should be most concerned when things start to become free, because then you realize
because they're getting something. They're
Yeah.
not actually giving you that for free. If it doesn't cost you anything to get the individual thing, it's because you've already paid for it in some way.
And think about how much data they can harvest from knowing your preferences.
Well, they don't even. That's what we talked about. The metadata network is this constant living thing,
Which is what Uber's going to do.
to where they don't need to be watching you. There's no NSA person at a computer watching your file all the time. They just have access to all of your information when they need it. They could spend a couple minutes and say, "Oh, Jake was at Starbucks this morning," and then
He really likes this one scene in The Irishman.
he rewatches the first 20 minutes of The Irishman over and
Every
over
day.
again. He's never even finished the whole thing. I mean, they can
Why
create
does he
FBI
stop?
profiles for all sorts of things,
Yeah.
character behaviors. If you have all this metadata,
It's insane.
you can tell that when I'm on the toilet because it's when I'm on TikTok or something. You know what I
Right.
mean? And when I say they, the data is available. That's the thing.
That's what they're selling.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's the government, like the whole government's in on it.
Government!
But it already exists. That technology, that level of surveillance is already legal, and it already exists, right?
Yeah.
What were you going to say about that?
I'm sorry, I kept trying to interrupt you.
No, you're great.
I was talking about how, I was just reiterating the idea that Uber, like, you have these restaurants that are, you come to us, we'll pay for your Uber. That's the macro form of what we're talking about. It's that these companies are paying to get to you. And so, like, I believe absolutely Uber will become free, because think about how much information they have of you just by knowing where you want to go.
Well, and one thing I really love about, like, the old school version of this is a bar. Well, we live in St. Louis, so we have the St. Louis baseball stadium, right? Busch Stadium. And we have this whole economy built around our baseball experience, right? Here in town, being a big deal. Thank you. I've always wanted a Werther's original. Is that what that is? Oh my God, it is. And so a bar like the Shamrock, one of my favorite bars that sometimes isn't even open, will shuttle you to the game for free because they know that you're going to spend money on drinks there before and after. Back in the day, my people used to always tell me you would go to happy hour and there would just be free food, or like the tapas tradition of Spain that kind of blew up here like 10 or 15 years ago is, you get a free little appetizer every time you order a drink. So you're really making money on the drinks, and the food is just have a hot dog, shut up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now,
Peanuts or popcorn.
so they will start giving us things for free if we surrender things to them that are valuable, even if it's not currency. Like, I'm not paying the government, whatever organization it is, whatever thing it is, whatever detail it is, I'm not paying somebody in cash for something they're going to give me. So it makes it feel like it's free, but I'm giving them some kind of commodity. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it's amazing right now because they already have us like Spotify has us paying for their subscription service, and they're taking our data, and they're selling it. They have all this income, and we don't get a lick of it.
The basic version of Hulu, there's still a bunch of ads. So I'm giving you $12 a month to watch ads. And then I think
Crazy.
now we have the premium, which is like $20 a month or something, which is probably, I don't know. Who
Well, that's
knows?
with cable. I mean, cable wouldn't
But
even
that's
let
the
you
thing now.
choose
It's
to watch.
also that's the thing too. Is now it's just like cable. Eventually they're going to find a way to monetize every checkpoint, because they're not going to. They have the money to innovate. Also, it's not like Chipotle just rose up and took out fast food for a couple of years. Somebody built up this fast casual concept and sold it to McDonald's. You know what I mean? McDonald's decided, hey, you
God love 'em.
want fast casual, you're tired of the drive-through, you want a fucking burrito, you want to tell me what's in it, you want to do the Subway of burritos, fine. McDonald's is still going to make that money. They're not going to join that fight. I'm sure oil people invest in non-oil things because they want to be a part of that transition. I would if I was them.
You're not hearing all of my chewing, are you? I'm sorry.
For what?
I have all these snacks in my backpack, and
What are you eating?
I'm sorry. I'm done.
Have you not eaten?
I'm done.
You had Joyous.
I did. I was.
We just
I'm
talked
so
about
full.
Joyous.
It's so much food when they give it. I mean, have you had?
I thought this next part we're going to get to is all we were going to talk about today. I'm so glad that this podcast is a living thing.
oh no.
My mom just got vaccinated for COVID. I'm definitely not an anti-vaxxer. I'm diabetic, so I get a flu shot every year. I also had the Hep A vaccine when I was in high school, or maybe it was B, whichever one you need to work in food service. When I was first starting college, we had our Parents' Day, and they were talking to us about the health services on campus, and they were mentioning how they could offer all sorts of immunizations and vaccines at the health center at the university. And my mom passed me a note that said, you could be one less. You know, like remember those commercials for the HPV?
One less.
But that doesn't mean I'm not concerned about this new vaccine, right? It's an mRNA vaccine, they call it, which is sort of a revolutionary technology, to say the least. It's not just a basic flu shot.
Uh-oh.
You know, it's state-of-the-art sort of technology, which makes sense because it's a state-of-the-art problem, right? So that's all good. My mom's a nurse, so she's on the front lines, but her job wouldn't give her the vaccine until she had scheduled to have 2 consecutive days off afterward.
Uh-oh.
Are you listening?
I'm listening.
Like, they wouldn't give her the vaccine until they knew she could just sit on her ass for 2 days.
Wait.
I knew you weren't hearing me.
No, but what are you implying? You're implying that...
They knew she was going to be fucked up for a couple days.
Right, which is what the flu shot does.
I've never been fucked up from a flu shot, ever.
It's supposed to give you the flu.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, but...
It
okay.
protects me from the flu.
I'm supposed to know this. I'm supposed to be...
Because it's
Googling
supposed to be a compromised version of the flu.
Oh, the new...
No. Well, here's the thing. That's the flu shot. My experience, I've never had... And so this is my hesitation. This is what we call vaccination hesitancy, right? But like what? I have to plan a 48-hour blackout after my vaccine to not get sick? Like that's the trade-off? Like I need to be guaranteed useless. I need to be guaranteed useless, like for longer than Britney Spears' first marriage in order to get the vaccine. Do you remember when she got married in Vegas and they immediately got it annulled as soon as they sobered up? Like I have to be sick for longer than that.
Yeah.
To prevent myself from getting sick in a way that Donald Trump kicked in 4 days. I
Well-
mean, he's a 75-year-old man who eats McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
He had COVID for 4 days. Meanwhile, I have to take 2 days off work.
Narcissism is the cure. But anyway...
It's in the Adderall, maybe, and maybe
Yeah.
the Remdesivir.
Is he taking those?
Everyone says he's on Adderall all the time.
He's not. No. You don't know.
I don't know. I think
We
that
don't
would be
know.
weird because you think he'd be a little ate up. But if he's wearing dentures, I don't know if those are dentures.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the teeth grinding is what you're implying.
Well, just because meth makes your teeth fall out.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I'm plugged into the grid. I made a conscious choice to participate in a more conventional life structure in order to maintain my creature comforts and the privilege to work on my actual happiness. So I'm not actually in a bunker, right? Like, I'm not hoarding food or munitions. Cardboard, maybe I hoard a little bit. We got rid of some of that today. But like,
Yeah,
I'm not.
definitely
I'm
not a
not.
hoarder.
I'm not a paranoid guy. Like, I have health insurance, and I own a car, and I pay a mortgage, and I
He doesn't even have tinted windows.
I use social media. I have an iPhone. Like, so I'm not acting. I eat a McDonald's. Sorry, sue me. So I'm not acting like I'm not going to get the vaccine if my doctor in his office tell me to. But I raise an eyebrow when, in one news segment, I'm supposed to put my faith in the words of these leaders about a revolutionary emergency vaccine, while they also fight for months to ultimately send me $600 in a Christmas card, like a rich but kind of hands off
You should bitch about that for a minute.
relative. You know what I mean? Like, So, Bernie, thank you so much, Mr. Sanders, for getting the vaccine. Now I feel safe. I'll go do it. Meanwhile, that motherfucker is still a senator. Where's my fucking money, Bernie? Where's my money? Everybody, anybody in there?
Better have my
Where's
money.
And then Donald Trump was acting like he wanted $2,000 per citizen, which I was like, now we're talking, baby.
Right. Daddy Trump.
But then the next day, he signed the $600 thing. Donald, what happened?
I don't like this.
He was
Here you
just
go.
on Twitter demanding $2,000. He was on TV tripling down on maybe that administration will be me. But then the next day, he's signing it. What happened?
I just want you to know that I disagree with what's happening here.
Well, he was saying, I demand $2,000 per citizen, $4,000 for married couples.
and a flu shot in my ass.
I think, why are we both big Ange when we do Trump? Everyone gets a vaccine right in their ass. I'm Big Ange. I miss her. God rest her. God rest her. So, meanwhile, we know the same people, the same government, the same organizations, and a lot of the time, the same actual fucking people, because they never die or leave office, have all been responsible for these terrible abuses of power and abuses of power and systematic targeted malicious attacks on innocent civilians. Like, take your pick. MK Ultra, proven, declassified, really happened. Tuskegee, they really truly gave those dudes syphilis. And it came out later that, we wanted to study what would happen if you didn't treat syphilis. What would it do to you? And so they secretly gave these military dudes fucking syphilis, right? And that's all come out because all those people are no longer in power. A lot of them are dead. Yeah. So, now we can declassify it. Oh, that's terrible. Thank God we don't do that anymore.
It was a different time.
Ellen,
I'm praying.
They let Ellen run a fucking sweatshop torture chamber in the back of her show. She's a CIA operative. I don't understand what's going on. Yeah, and meanwhile, they send us $600 after months of no direct aid. And, oh, by the way, bend over, here's your needle. Like,
yeah.
It's just that they act like we're crazy. They act like we're crazy for being upset.
Yeah.
Just because it's happening to all of us doesn't mean it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You guys are just so overreacting.
You guys, listen, we're trying to go to the moon. That we're trying to merge. This is crazy.
You guys just need to sit down.
And I'll be the first one to tell you. I'll be the first one to tell you to stop living in the past. We got to worry about now. I don't even like shit from January because it was a different world then. But I've watched the establishment lie to my face in my lifetime. I was 10 or 12 or 15, and people like Cheney and Rumsfeld were collectively profiting billions of dollars on a fake war, a fake mail bomb with anthrax. They had their new mail bomb scare. It's not a mail bomb anymore. It's anthrax now. And even other alleged pandemics like swine flu when Bush was in office, bird flu when Obama was in office, which thankfully never got to the point that this has. And that's just one example. I'm thinking of Donald Rumsfeld making $5 million or something on Tamiflu when he had a hand in promoting the stockpiling of it in preparation for swine flu. Like, he was part of the administration at the time in such a way that he had foreknowledge that, hey, there is this swine flu thing. One way we could prevent that becoming more of an issue is by stockpiling this drug that is good for this kind of infection. And he just so happened to do a little insider trading and invest in old girl while that was happening, right? That actually happened. It's not a secret because it wasn't even really illegal.
Yeah. I think most money that's made on Wall Street is from this exact instance. It's from people promoting drugs that and creating a scare and creating.
And look that up. So I can be hyperbolic. Some of those numbers, I scream a lot of this into my phone while I'm driving around with my dogs.
It's not going to come up as the most traded Wall Street thing, but it's going to come up as big pharma and how it works on Wall Street. It's a proof. I mean, this is just what happens. It's not. I don't feel the need to look at it.
And let's look at what the establishment is currently working on for us. It's like I said about the universe or the simulation we live in last week. They are totally trolling us and not even trying to pretend anymore. The universe is just throwing random details back in my face out of context to link everything together in a way that makes me feel crazy. Yeah. And the government, establishment, or whatever you want to call them, with this smaller and smaller group of people all the time who refuse to die, are parading Joe Biden in the White House. He doesn't even know if he wants to be president. Years ago, he backed out. He said, let Hillary do it.
Oh my gosh. Stressing me out.
He was still kind of sweet then. He wasn't that weird.
Yeah.
And I've been reading about these political simulations of these academics or whatever these organizations have in an election year to plan for this stuff. No. These simulations, these political simulations are
like a mock trial.
Yeah. They're these games that political organizations or research organizations or universities, put on in an election year to plan for the different scenarios so they can advise people that care, board members of Fortune 500 companies or, the CIA or whoever. Pretty much Biden is going in on Inauguration Day in one way or another is what it looks like from here. And they're not hiding that. They don't, that's who they want in. And even when the DNC, for example, screwed Bernie for Hillary, it felt like the whole thing was set up and it was just this big Hillary takeover. And nothing against her particularly. I voted for her, begrudgingly. At least then it still felt cloak and dagger. There was that girl at the DNC with the hair that they outed, and it was still nuanced and secretive. You know what I mean? But these girls out here, honey, ain't even trying to play. They don't care if you know them. They don't care if you see what they doing. And they got their little plan, and they're sticking to it. And they're not trying to be sneaky anymore. They're saying, here, fucking take your shit. What do we like, Joe? Here's your little Postmates. Here's your little $600. Yeah. We'll call you later. We're working on some stuff. Go ahead and just get that vaccine. Yeah. We're going to make the oldest among us get injected with something on camera.
Yeah.
Not even saying that it wasn't the vaccine, but what is that supposed to do for me? You know what I mean? Did that make you feel better?
No.
Joe, are you going to get the vaccine? Again, I said.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Yeah, if my doctor and their team tell me to get it, I never really got flu shots as an adult until they started telling me to.
I already say I got it at my job.
So you're lying?
Yeah, I'm what you might call a liar. And people look at me and they say, well, have you gotten the vaccine? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, I'm like, yep.
Well,
can you prove? Nope.
Well, that's going to be a whole thing people are worried about.
I cannot wait to get at my driver's
Dead
license.
rhinos only charge in a mudslide.
Oh no, did Mufasa die?
Dead rhinos only charge in a mudslide. That was in my time hop from Twitter a couple years ago, and I guess I tweeted it. I can't find evidence of it as a quote anywhere else on the internet. It's like a fortune cookie from my past self. And
that's a good one.
But I'm sort of exploring what freedom means to me. I define my liberty every day in the decisions I make. Currently, my freedom includes an annual flu shot, a day job with state-sponsored organization with premium benefits and pretty decent hours, a home, a car, but also art and a lot of free speech. My liberty excludes things that I don't like Chick-fil-A and Walmart. I happen to be a Sam's Club member through my father's business, but I don't participate in the Walmart side of their business really at all. It's just not an experience that I've enjoyed.
Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, I don't have a big thing like, oh, Walmart does this specific thing that makes me mad. I prefer other stores, and lately I don't really shop anywhere except for on my phone because of the pandemic. So I just choose not to participate in one. They just stress me out. When I have to go in one, I don't like it. It's not like the stores that I'm used to, and they're just a big part of the problem. Like, it just doesn't. I can't enjoy it. It's like I still have not eaten at Chick-fil-A.
Now, Jake.
I've eaten Chick-fil-A twice, paid for it once, and this was like 7 years ago. And they had just opened one of the first brick and mortar locations locally, and my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, wanted their grilled nuggets because she was on paleo and she could eat those.
Oh, so good.
I bet they're good. I bet they're good.
I mean, they're
bet
not
they're
that
good.
I mean, they're just
I
these
bet
these
the
rubbery.
cake at Marie Antoinette's Last Supper was delicious.
Is that your joke?
What?
That one right there, Maria Antoinette.
I just shooting from the
You
hip.
just shot it from the dick.
From the hip dick.
I love that. That's good.
But no, I mean, I'm sure the food is good at the top. But you have to be able to enjoy your meal without people banging on the door to take their stuff back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to make sure that you can build happiness and joy and even luxury for yourself in a way that's not directly connected to the people that are going to get mad at you. Like, I don't understand what people think it... Like, me flexing with my Starbucks on Instagram is one thing. But when you are just letting everyone know that you took your whole family on a $1 million vacation for your 40th birthday during a pandemic where people can't go visit their grandmother while she's dying in the hospital.
I wish we would disenfranchise those people. We just can't.
That's what I'm
help it.
saying.
We just can't help it.
Because they have us thinking that we could be them.
Yeah.
They let enough of us become them, and they really love talking about, oh, you know, Oprah was a prostitute in Baltimore when she was a teenager. And
What?
Yeah. I mean, look that up.
I'm looking it up.
That's I learned that from Oprah.
Who was her pimp?
I didn't ask her.
Matt Lauer?
I didn't. You know what? That's not funny.
I'm sorry.
Because
sorry.
it is so funny. No, it is so
Yeah.
funny.
No, it just came up.
No,
as-
but that's what I'm saying is they want to show you rags to riches all the time. There used to be a show on VH1 called that, and they want to promote that because they want you to think that you are one Powerball ticket away from being out of that trailer park and on Rodeo Boulevard. They want you to think that, and the option is so American, and I want you to have that freedom to pursue whatever you want to pursue.
Liberty.
And to hit all the green lights at the right time. I want you to be able to do that, but we can't keep acting like 7 billion people on this planet have that potential. They're not all starting with the same thing. They're not all starting with the same. It's like, you know, it's some schools talk about we can't assume that kids can do homework online at home because we can't assume that they all have stable internet connections at home, which seems crazy to think about as a mainstream middle class person in 2020. But it's very real. We have dozens of hotspots we've sent home to our students
That's really cool.
because we want them to have access to the stuff that they need while they're... And it's not a perfect technology, and there's a lot of throttling and a lot of limitations, and it's not perfect. But that's the reality. So there is a standard of living, and a lot of people live below that standard. That's why it's the standard, because it's like a C+ at best, right? Did you know I was this good?
Yeah, no, I didn't. You're so smooth.
So that's pretty detailed and pretty picky and choosy, but your definition of freedom should be that detailed, even if it is just to take pride and joy in your choices.
Absolutely.
I chose to buy a Ford Escape in 2014. I could have bought anything. It wasn't even new. It was pre-owned, a model year old. My grandfather worked for Ford for decades, and my buddies were selling Fords at the time. And looking at all my options, I took pride in going that way at that time. Now, lately, conveniently since my warranty expired, you know, I've had temptations about maybe wishing I had a different car.
Don't you
But
dare.
at the time that I made that decision, it was perfect. It's like when you buy a guitar and, you know, it's the right place at the right time, and it's like, oh, I gotta get this. The planets aligned for me to have this experience. And maybe you have that with a sweater or whatever. People still wear sweaters. Are the kids wearing sweaters?
I'm wearing a sweater right now.
Okay, good. Thank you, Joe. I just want people to find that for themselves. Give yourself that gift. Demand that the choices in your life make you proud of what you're doing. And if all you have is a room in someone else's house, you can take pride in how you choose to keep that space. And I'm not saying that to be like clean your room. I'm saying that to like treat yourself well. Because I don't know that anyone else is going to give you those things.
Yeah.
And I just want you to do it for you. I want you to carve out your own little square of pride and joy. That's what this room is down here for me. And I've been kind of working on this all week, kind of all since this show started several months ago. This has been a process to, get this space in a way that we could do this show exactly the way we're kind of doing it. We have Pro Tools on my Mac. We have OBS on my new PC rig, which is just crazy and I'm just in love with. That's an extreme tangible way that I do that, but I also take pride in just waking up and seeing my puppies and my wife and my cats and just knowing that, I have a family here, and I could have a bigger house. My cats could be cleaner.
That's a really good take, Jake. That's probably the quote of your life right there.
Oh, Jesus.
Don't be stingy about your definition
Don't be
of freedom.
stingy.
Be very specific about your definition of freedom. I think that's probably the most American thing that's ever been said.
Okay.
Is don't be. What'd you say?
That's your dragon, and her name is freedom.
Yeah.
And that's who we're chasing. Also, reaffirming that for yourself each and every day is your daily fight to keep it alive, right?
Right.
You wear your favorite clothes, right? That's the analogy, is you wear your favorite clothes. If you have a favorite shirt, you're wearing it. That Ozzy Osbourne t-shirt that's on Tina, my mannequin back there,
It's a good one.
I used to wear that every other day. I would wear it, I'd go home and wash it, and it would take about a day to work its way through the cycle, and I'd wear it the very next day. So I tried to wear it Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
That's so sweet. I didn't know.
Because I love that shirt. When I was in 7th grade, that was my favorite shirt. And I only quit wearing it so that I could keep it. Because I had a really cool White Stripes t-shirt that I wore and wore and wore until the armpits literally fucking rotted out. There were big holes where my armpits were.
It's like it's a caricature or a memorial of your former self, reminding you.
Yeah,
of who
that's
you are.
it's like how Batman puts the bat suit on a mannequin, except that's like my former self with my Halloween mask and my zebra tights.
We need like a piece of plexiglass on top so you can look into it in the reflection and see yourself on the head of the mannequin.
Oh yeah, like in Dawn of Justice, that was lit.
And you could be like, oh yeah, that's who I am, as a female model with an Ozzy Osbourne t-shirt on.
So I want people to keep their freedom and their self-love like a good jacket. And by each of us not waiting to get off the ride at some arbitrary finish line, which is a huge problem, that mentality, but maintaining a daily strive, we are replenishing that hope every day. Every day I'm working to be a little bit healthier. I'm working to be a little bit more productive. I'm working to be...
That's right.
What?
Amen. It's like you're a preacher.
Amen.
Amen.
Glory.
All right.
Glory.
All right.
Ah, yeah. But that's the thing, is that, for example, my mom works with a really devout Muslim woman who absolutely will not skip her scheduled prayers in her day. She's a couple times a day. I think she is scheduled to pray 5 times a day or 7 times a day. She has a couple that are on her shift, and she absolutely has to go at the scheduled time. It's non-negotiable, and no one's making her do that.
Better than a smoke break, I guess.
Well, I think that's a great way to look at it, too. But it's her own. She's doing it not because somebody's going to ask her if she did it. She's doing it because that's how she stays connected with her faith, and it brings balance and structure to her life.
Wait. It's also why she also does it because she fears the.
Oh, maybe God's going to ask her why she didn't do it.
But seriously, we should acknowledge the fact that what she believes is real to her. So if she believes that if she misses it, she's going to be tortured for a couple of years. That's what the Muslims believe. Just so you know.
Okay,
That's
easy,
a fear.
easy, brother.
That's what the
Muslims believe.
No, I'm telling you, this is true.
No, but okay, so that's a good point. So that's part of
it's
her
good.
faith.
No,
But
it's good that she's
there
praying.
are plenty of people who believe that same thing ideologically, but also practice more casually than that.
No,
is all
it's
I'm trying
something
to
that they're
say.
proud of.
No, yeah. And so she's doing that because that's her faith, but it's also because, my mom says Hail Marys every time before she goes into work. And I, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen is I was waiting for the dim sum place to open at 11 o'clock on Del Mar.
Mm-hmm.
I was on Olive.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening. Oh, he's taking a swig.
I was waiting for the dim sum place to open, and the owner of the store came out, and he said some kind of a prayer, and he lit a little thing, kind of blew it out, and he kind of prayed over the parking lot, and then went back in. He was praying for a successful day of business. Not only is that really beautiful and a great way to celebrate your faith or whatever, but also that's playing a role in that person's life where that's keeping them structured and balanced. And that may be a totally secular thing for you. That may be your coffee in the morning. And that may be, that's what I'm saying. Let's say it is your coffee in the morning. Say you have to have one specific coffee beverage one certain way at the same time every morning. Don't hate your fucking coffee. If you hate your fucking mug, throw it away. Buy 4 mugs at Target for $7. And you have different mugs. You know what I mean? Like, how it took me like a year to buy a new mop. My old mop got gross, and I started to throw parts of it away. And then I was like, why? Hey, what is a mop? $30? Mm-hmm. Hello?
It's important never to forget
why make yourself suffer? Because those little things, those little comforts may be all you can control. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Does it make you feel good?
I feel something.
And it's like the idea that like Christmas spirit breathes life into Santa's sleigh. You know what I mean? Like it's like, from Elf when people have to believe so that he can turbocharge his sleigh.
It says here, the messenger of Allah said, a person neglecting salat, even if he makes it up later, which is the prayer, he will remain in Jahannam for a period of 1 habq, which I think is something to be feared. Anyway, we can continue. I'm sorry. You can cut this out.
I saw this really great documentary I used in a class once. I was teaching world literature, maybe, and I think so. Maybe it was juniors, but I had the non-AP section. And there's something we were going to read where the background had to do with like the Middle East. And I realized that these kids don't know anything about the actual history of that region. And I had so many questions about why is it that, my whole life that's been such an area of, you have the perpetual holy war happening there. You have all these different conflicts, all these other parts of the world fighting proxy wars there. Sometimes it seems like it's over resources with oil and, lithium that they make lithium ion batteries out of. Mm-hmm. But they're also fighting amongst themselves all the time. And so we watched this really great documentary called like Atomic Jihad or something. It was on Amazon Prime at the time. And it was really in the weeds. It was really like it was out of a textbook, but it was really great in showing like the entire documented history of that region and where all of those tensions come from. Yeah. And then because then I got to the point where I thought, oh, maybe it just started in the 70s or something. Because I started to learn about stuff all the way back then. But it's really, there's been conflict in that region for thousands of years, mm-hmm. right? And part of where I was getting down the rabbit hole with some of the other stuff I was researching for this episode today also interplays with this constant Israel versus Palestine kind of a thing and this general like non-Muslim versus Muslim conflict that's so constant and like it plays out in all these different scenarios.
I think something that I noticed you saying is I think what we ignore also is understanding nomadic culture, and nomadic culture can be there can be a lot of pride taken in
well, it seems to be the issue too so much in that region that people are refusing to live together.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not that people are fighting for
a place.
They're just refusing to.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that nomadic culture takes a great deal of pride.
Why our show always comes back? We are going to solve Israel and Palestine on this show at some point.
Yes,
we're going to do it.
I'm just kidding. I'm not excited about
not this episode today, maybe, but I think we get some of our research game on. I said we get an expert in here.
There's a lot of papers on it, but I think there's plenty of experts that want to talk about it.
I mean, I say we get them.
We should get a whole talking heads section. They should all be screaming at each other at once.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And we'll just sit here and nod. But this conversation's not over.
It's not over.
You know what I mean? I feel like this episode is, but I feel like this conversation's not, because it all started with I didn't know what a Zionist was. But it's also when I get deep in the weeds about, these are things that I get really upset about, like when I get mad at the way the establishment kind of does their thing, and just acts like we're supposed to be okay with it. I really reflect on what I was interpreting on the news as a child versus what I understand now as an adult, and how, again, I'm not saying we need to go back and fight about who killed Kennedy. I also have opinions on that if you want to talk about that. But we can just stick to the things that have happened in the last 20 years, and there's plenty of proven declassified stuff that validates our frustration. Again, just because it's happening to all of us does not mean it's not important. And the way that I'm choosing to respond to that is I continue to vote with my dollar, like we talked about. And I just try to really lead with like the real priorities in my life, really caring for my family and creating sustained joy in the environment I leave myself in.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna say that I'm gonna root for finding a solution, but I think it really gets down to I think it's sad, but the fact of the matter is that when it comes to that issue, it really ends up getting down to having to pick a side because it's very, very complicated. I've learned a little bit about it, and there was a lot of discussion about it in my college class, and there was a lot of discussion about it in high school. And I was raised a Christian, so there's a lot of discussion about it there. It's very, very complicated. And the only way, and you end up making statements that you don't mean. I'm very worried about that. So it's scary.
Well, it's just like the pedophilia issue. Like we had this long conversation beforehand about exactly what we were curious about and what we wanted to discuss on camera, because I didn't want to just misspeak and say something that seemed awful, right? And
you're really good at it. I'm learning from you.
I'm a really articulate, intuitive gentleman. I mean, I'm a high functioning intellectual being.
Like if there was a Darwinist scale of higher evolved people, and then there was a lesser evolved people, you'd be 75% of the way up. I really wish we'd separate those classes.
Well, that's our show. I really wish we'd separate people based off capacity, and if we could
IQ.
if everyone could just take an IQ test, and if you don't make the grade, brother, we're gonna eat you. Is that what you're
farmers. You're gonna be Put a fence around them.
Listen, if you're not obviously disabled, but your IQ is below a certain number, bacon.
Yeah. If you looked up those threads, they're awful.
We're making bacon.
We're making bacon.
Guys, that's another episode of Jacob V Weekly. High five. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Google, whatever. You can also find original music by Jacob V and Too Deep on all of your music platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Deezer. You can Bing it. Exclusively on Bandcamp, you can find music from my old band Battlestag. I love those guys. It's a great document of our time together. You can follow me on Twitter at Malachi Envy, on Instagram at Jacob Allen V. We are currently live on Twitch, Facebook on my Jacob V Music page, and YouTube simultaneously via Streamlabs OBS Prime, not yet a sponsor. I also curate a monthly playlist since May of 2020. I have one for each month on Spotify. Search for